got another one! Support arriving. Oh, they've scored! They've only gone and done it! It's absolutely extraordinary!
Corner for Ulsan, headed down. It's in! Martin Adam! Surely the title belongs to the Tigers.
Hello, 안녕하세요. Welcome to the K-League United podcast. Merry Christmas and season's greetings to all those who celebrate. Matthew Binns here, leading what will be our final podcast of the year. And as has become tradition, we're getting into the festive spirit once again. Joining me is a man who has spent the last week giving Jonathan a run for his money with topless beach photos. It's Paul Neat. Paul, how are you doing?
Hello there. Yes, I'm very good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I saw that you had got away for the Christmas break. You know, no playoffs to worry about. So perhaps enjoying yourself a bit.
And let me tell you what I saw. I saw when I was in Boracay, a young foreign lad, must have been about 15, wearing an Incheon shirt, the new ACL shirt with jersey on the back. I was like, what on earth?
Incheon were playing in the Philippines while you were there.
They were in Manila, yeah. And I pointed at the kid. I was like, Incheon, and he was like, did this with a thumbs up. And I should have asked him why. So if you're listening, whoever you are, if you're listening or you're watching, please get in touch. I want to know what the story is there.
Okay. Well, also joining me is a man who has been making a list, checking it twice, putting it in Footballogy, and looking at the grounds he thinks that are naughty and nice. Andrew Farrell has come to town. Andrew, how's it going?
Good. Merry Christmas to you both.
Merry Christmas. Yeah. I see one of your naughty list grounds in Suwon Sports Complex might be in for a year without football.
Amazing, hey? Yeah. And the thing is, we really went to town on the disliking or the disadvantages of that stadium a couple of weeks ago, and maybe we won't get to go back there again if the rumors to be believed are true. Because I know Paul sent me on the quote. I thought it was a great one where the CEO said something like, "Big Bird is far too nice to be playing in K-League 2 next season." That was a great way to introduce your intended move to that stadium. But yes, maybe it's the end of the Suwon Stadium for all of us.
Oh yeah, Suwon and Suwon B, the Suwon B team playing in K-League 2, obviously in this. But yeah. Anyway, lads, it's the end of the season. It's Christmas. What are you hoping Santa's going to be bringing you this season, Paul?
Well, I don't want much. All I ask for is 2 away trips to Sangam next year, because we didn't get that this season. Daejeon were at home 3 times to FC Seoul, which is great, really, and for the club. But for me, selfishly, I just wanted to be able to go to Sangam twice. So I just want that, and also, as we've just kind of said, 2 trips to Big Bird. That'd be nice too.
Yeah. Andrew, yourself, what are you hoping Santa's going to be bringing you?
A Footballogy completed league badge for K-League 2. I'm going to go for one of those. I have the one for K-League 1. I'm nowhere near the K-League 2 one yet because I can't remember which stadium they have down for Busan. It's either Ashiad or Godok. But I know with Gangwon this season, they kind of split between the both of them. Now suddenly they're using Gangneung as the official stadium. So I got to go to Cheonan and I need to go to Jeonnam Dragons. So still a bit short of that badge, but please, Santa. Please.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm hoping for a K-League trophy because it's been over a year. Oh, not a K-League trophy, but just anything. But yes, anyway, I'm sure Santa will be listening for that, though. Well, yeah, for this episode, we thought we're going to take the role of Santa. We're going to play judge over others' Christmas wishes for K-League, or K-League-mas wishes, if you will. Our writers and friends of the podcast have sent in what they like to see in K-League next season. And, we're going to discuss each one of them. But to keep it interesting, there will be a catch. One person out of the 3 of us will be allocated the role of being, a bit of a Grinch and out to wipe the smiles off our guests' faces. Because, after all, nothing says Christmas like seeing old family and acquaintances and having an argument over dinner. So everyone's going to get a minute or so to say their piece. If it goes on a little bit too long, we have an alarm that we're going to try and test live now and see if it works. Does the alarm work? It's going to sound like this. And that means you've gone on for too long. So hopefully this podcast will last within the hour. Hasn't worked for a few weeks. Doubt it's going to do that today, but we'll see. Okay, and we also want anybody watching to leave their comments as well on each of these opinions, because they are opinions that a lot of us have held and over the years, a lot of grudges and things. So please get your thoughts in. Please get in what you want as well from the K-League, for the K-League this Christmas rather. And yeah, after we've discussed, we're going to decide whether we grant the wish or bin it to a festive room 101. I'm mixing themes, but somebody is either going to get coal or what they want here. So without further ado, lads, are you ready? First one.
I get the feeling that buzzer is going to apply to Paul Neat.
Yeah, I've got a volume control as well. It's just going to get increasingly louder until I get Paul to stop. But we'll see. Right then. So first out from underneath the tree, it's our very own Diogo Valente. Let's listen to what he wants this Christmas.
My K-Ligma's wish is to keep the foreign quota as it is, not really increase it or decrease it, although I would be more inclined to accept decreasing over an increasing. A couple of reasons. The first one, the financial situation of most K-League teams can't really afford it to have more foreigners, and especially when you still have limitations in the foreigners that you can put in the match squad and playing together. So there is not much logic behind it, especially because of the financial situation. We all know that foreigners tend to earn more money on average than the Korean footballer, and that situation gets worse in K-League 2. And making a bridge to K-League 2, I think K-League 2 is a good place for youngsters to develop and to flourish into the potential that they might have. But with a bigger payroll due to the increase of the foreign quota, probably most teams in K-League 2 can't afford to have a lone player from teams in a higher division, and therefore possibly a bigger paycheck for those players. So doesn't really make sense in terms of developing the Korean football, in my opinion. Obviously, you can see some advantages and you can see them in the J League, but the problem here is that J League has a lot of quality scouting departments all over the league. It's not really comparable. The K League teams tend to use agencies and agents to buy foreigners, and we have seen in the past that sometimes those foreigners don't really perform on the pitch, and that is not a financial return. And it's important in teams in K League to have a financial return. So that for me doesn't make a lot of sense, and there is no logic behind it to really increase the foreign quota. It's not a priority. The priority should be, for example, creating a better foundation in terms of scouting departments throughout the whole country. So yeah, that's my K-League wish.
All right, thank you, Diogo. There, coming in first, starting the Christmas discussion on foreigners does feel like a very much, very dodgy Christmas dinner. But Paul, Diogo makes some interesting points there about keeping the foreign quota as it is in the K-League. Any thoughts on what he's had to say there?
No, I agree to an extent, really, because although there are advantages, like he said about bringing in foreigners and stuff for players to learn from, but I think it's fine. My only concern with it is that teams in the ACL are going to get left behind, but the competition has now become such a joke with the new format. I'm not even sure that I care too much about that anymore, really. But the only thing I would say is that the ban on foreign keepers needs to change. Getting rid of and also getting rid of the AFC thing from next season. Next season, we're never going to see any Australian or Japanese players here again. I don't think, really, unless they're really top players. But yeah, I kind of agree with what you have to say.
Well, Andrew, you've been elected the Grinch for this round, but you could go either way here. You could either increase the quota, decrease the quota, but what do you think from the other perspective?
Yeah, he's Diogo made some really good points there, and Paul did too. I don't like the thing straight away, picking up on what Paul said about perhaps not seeing any more Japanese players. because I know certainly from listening to Paul when he watches Dejan Hansen this season and watching Suwon, probably watch too much of Suwon this season with Kachki in midfield. The Japanese players just they provide especially midfield, they just provide a different level of football midfield. So I think it'd be really disappointing if that particular rule goes and they're not replaced by other Japanese players. If I was to, I'd be more inclined to go with reducing the number of foreigners. And one of the reasons I say that is because I remember listening to what Luke was saying on Twitter recently that he thinks without Champions League football that Incheon are not going to be able to fill the quota that they currently have. And I think whilst you have five, as it is 5-1, I think it just benefits the bigger sides or the wealthier sides too much. Like JG United, I think only has three foreign players this season. So I'd be more inclined to drop it. I definitely wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't increase it. But one thing I will say, and this is nothing against obviously Diogo and a lot of the other people who are listening to your show, but it'd be nice to see more variety with the foreign players who come over. I was looking at the stats earlier on. I think there were 68 foreign players in the K League this season. 31 of them were Brazilians. I actually thought it was going to be higher than that. So about 50% are Brazilians. I'd love to see more Japanese players because of the way that they play football, especially in the field. But I'd be more inclined to reduce the number, and I hope that we don't lose, as I said, some of the Japanese players some before. I'd be more inclined to drop the number, though. That's what I would say.
Yeah,
Okay.
if Santa was a K-League manager, how many of his 9 reindeers would be Brazilian, do you think?
4. A little bit under 50%. I'm going to go for 4.
All the ones at the front.
Those will be thrown out halfway through the season.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, it's a good point from Diogo. I think well argued from him. I am not going to start this by denying Christmas wishes. I don't think. So I am going to say that Diogo, if we had any power in K League, would get his wish for next year, perhaps. But if you disagree, get in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. Right then, let's go back under the tree. Let's see what else we've got in there. We've got in from Charlie Beasley, our own Jeju United columnist. This is what he's got to say.
Everyone, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all. My proposal for K-Leaguemas is an increase in fan engagement from clubs to do with some minor club decisions. Recently, we've seen quite a few changes to badges in the Japanese league, most notably being FC Tokyo's controversial badge change, and previously, even in England, we've seen a couple of examples of this. In 2012, Cardiff City's owners decided to change their home kit from blue to red, as red was a symbol of good fortune in their country. However, as Cardiff are quite well known for playing in blue and they possess the nickname the Bluebirds, but fans made their voice well known and the owners in the end resorted back to the blue home strip. Another example is Leeds United. In 2018, Leeds United proposed a brand new badge change themselves, but once again, fans were very quick to have their say and get their input in, and the board ended up going with the original badge. Now, over in Korea, we have Ulsan Hyundai changing to Ulsan HD. Before other K-League clubs follow suit and rebrand, should the clubs consult their fans or fan boards before making such a cultural change? In my opinion, I think they should consult the fans. Fans play such a huge part in the football club. They are the life and soul of every team, and I think the fans should definitely have more of a say in what goes on with the image of their club that they support and have grown up loving for many, many generations. But what do you guys think?
Thank you, Charlie, for that. That's a very good opinion. What do we think about fans having more involvement? Because it's touched on it there. We didn't actually get a chance to touch on it last week because it broke after we had basically finished recording the podcast. But Ulsan Hyundai have rebranded themselves as Ulsan HD FC. Obviously, to get a bit of a clearer picture of things for next season, they hope. But yeah, and they've brought out what I think is a soulless badge to go with it.
The badge is still buffering.
the badge is still buffering. Andrew, Paul went first on the last one, so I'll let you have a go at this. What do you think there of Charlie's thoughts?
Yeah, Charlie made some great thoughts. I was wondering where his video was going to go, and I like his point. Just like if you're going to make cultural changes, I agree with him. I got to say, I agree with him. If you're going to change the identity of a club, and that's the badge, the colors, anything to do with the naming, then I would have thought that fans absolutely have to be engaged in this. It was the point well made, and I like the fact that he just has his examples from the UK, Wales, and England, to add to the Old Town one. What I will say about the Old Town one, which is not slightly related to the same, but I think I think the crest is cool. I
Oh
like the
yeah.
tiger. I like the tiger. I like the tiger. I think the whole naming thing is absolute garbage. The way it changes from Ulsan HC to HC Ulsan, and some of it's in English, and some of it's in Korean. And I don't like going onto the K League app now and kind of flicking through some of the results earlier on. I was trying to figure out what this crest was. What have I missed? It actually turns out to be the brand new Ulsan crest. But yes, fully agreement with Charlie that if you are going to change the identity of the club, you should do so by asking the fans. Things like that. These are monumental changes as well. Fans should always be their opinion should be sought after for this.
Oh yeah, because Paul, Dejon, they've gone under a bit of rebranding in recent years. Obviously with the Hannah Bank takeover and things. Obviously as well with the colour changes, which has upset a few fans because if you've joined the K League recently, you think Dejon are a team that plays in green to some extent.
Yeah, and I wrote that down as I was listening to him speak there. But yeah, I think you can't just. And I understand with Dejon, it's a bit different because Hannah have to get their branding in there, right? I understand there's a bit of give and take. You can't just accept all the investment and transforming the club on and off the pitch without the branding being there. I still don't like the mouthwash green kits, to be honest. But what does leave a bit of taste is when they just sort of do things without really consulting the fans. And I 100% agree. I would love to know if there are any Ulsan fans listening or watching this, what they think of that new badge and the name. Like Andrew said, the badge isn't so bad, but the name is shocking, absolutely shocking. I can't imagine any fans would have been if they had a choice of 4, 5. That wouldn't even have been in the top 2. What they had there, scandalous. But yeah, I think things like that when you change the identity or the culture of a club, definitely. What would you say when it comes to managerial appointments? Like when Suwon Blue Wings appointed Kim Byung-soo, it was obvious that wasn't really going to be a good choice. That sometimes these people higher up in the club at boardroom level, these suits, they don't really understand football, let alone the club that they're supposed to be a custodian of. If they were, I'm not saying they should take only what the fans say and only take that on board, but they should at least listen to what they say before they make major decisions. I don't know. I agree with what was said. When things like that happen, they should also when it's a big club like Suwon Blue Wings and they make sort of decisions that could change the path that the club takes, which is what happened really this year, then maybe they should have a little listen to what the fans think.
Can I start that as well? What about the rumored move of Suwon FC? Would you think fans should be consulted if they're moving stadium?
I mean, yeah, I can't imagine anybody being that upset. It would be if Suwon Blue Wings went to the Civic Stadium, then there might be a bit of okay, lads, sorry, but this is going to happen. But when it's like you're moving into a better place, you might, I don't know, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it's always difficult. There's a difference between making decisions and consulting. I think consultation should always happen. I don't know whether the fans should have the say on the decision, but they obviously should be consulted and have their views at least heard. I mean, there's also, and again, I have to try and give this some balance because this is what we're trying to do here, even though I think it's a very unanimous opinion that Charlie's going to get is going to get his wish here. But I just want to point to an example where it's gone slightly wrong, and that's Ansan Greeners, because their name was decided on a fan vote. And
that was awful.
Well, yeah, there's a reason why they've got wolves in their badge, and one of the options was the Ansan Wolves, and they thought very much that fans might go for this Wolves option, did all the logo work and thought, well, we'll let the fans name it. Put one of the options as Greeners, and well,
I reckon that
we're still here.
I reckon they made a template of like 4 things, right, already, and they couldn't think of a 4th. So we've got Ansan Wolves, we've got Ansan Smart, because that was one of them, and Ansan United, I think, was the other one. Let's just put Greeners. No one will vote for that.
It's like the Boaty McBoatface of K-League. But yeah, no, and also, I mean, Pohang did actually try something a couple of years ago, and I wasn't something I particularly agreed with, but they joined with the Bitcoin, the fan token, the Socios. But I noticed as well in research for this pod that actually they've long since, well, they're no longer included on the Socios site. So if they are still partnered with Socios, then somebody needs to tell the marketing department that they're not being represented at all. But that's obviously that fan token thing. It's like to vote on small things like the entrance music to come on to the pitch and things. It's not really my cup of tea, but there has been attempts. But yeah, I think fans should definitely be consulted. I know that one of the Suwon groups right now, Frente Tricolor, they're not exactly happy with Yom Ki Hun being handed the permanent reins of things next season. But yeah, interesting thought from Charlie. I'm going to say he gets it, and I think
get that room 101 lever.
The room. Well, no, we need the other one to put it in the sleigh. I don't know what that would be, but somebody just chucking it in, like, hey, off we go. All right, we'll have one more, and we'll have a little break. And next up, Paul Ebenezer Scrooge is going to be ruining Christmas for this next person. But be warned, Paul, because before the night is through, you're going to be visited by not 1, not 2, but 3 Barnsley fans. So this is Peter Hampshire with what he wants for Christmas.
Hello, everyone on the K-League United podcast, and thank you, Matthew, for inviting me back on. I thought you might have had enough of my stories about Gimje and my countryside life there, but clearly not. So I'm sending this over from England, and Gimje is the inspiration for my K-League Christmas idea. I think that Jollibukdo has space for another team, not an under-21 team for Jeonbuk, but a proper provincial town team. So you've got places like Iksan, that's got a 25,000 seater stadium. You've got Gimje, which has also got surprisingly good facilities. Not that I'm a member of a tourist board or anything. Buan, there's all sorts. And they've also got a lot of youth team facilities for Jeonbuk. So why not have a proper local club that could act as a feeder club for Jeonbuk? That'd be my idea. And it's been great to see the attendances boost in K-League since I moved back to England. But when you look at Jollibukdo, there's definitely space for another side, I feel.
That's a face we've not seen for a while. Peter Hampshire there, coming in from ITV Calendar, making space in his day to come back on the podcast and promote Gimje for us. But promoting Gimje a bit too much over the top, Paul. He wants a team there.
Oh, little town of Buangun. I know Gun is not town, it's county, but no, I'm sorry, but no, without a proper football-specific stadium, I just don't think it would work, nor is there really the catchment area for another team. What makes Jeonbuk work is that there's nothing else there. There's no baseball team, there's no football team, okay? So actually, I didn't realise that was going to be Pete. I should have known, really, that was Pete. But if I had a look at the sort of the next biggest cities in the province, to see where we could go. So you really want to get as big as possible, right? Try and get as many fans as you can. Iksan, 280,000. Gunsan, 270,000. I believe you used to live there, Matthew.
I did used to live in Gunsan, and also I'd say the Iksan's got the KTX as well. So both good options.
All right. Jeongup, 110,000. Gimje, 80,000. So the next biggest, really... The next biggest are really less than half the size of Jeonju at around 650,000. So, if you compare it to Jeollanam-do, now the distance between Gwangju and Gwangyang is it's 75 kilometers. Now, the distance from Jeonju to Gunsan about 37.5, to Iksan is about 25. So. The biggest cities outside of where John Book are based are just too small, right? Also, you got to look at the average attendances for John Book this season: 12,654. Pre-COVID, 14,500 in 2019, 11,000 in 2018, 11,000 2017, 2016 bit of a spike, 16,000. 2015, 16,000. I just don't think we can really dilute the fan base in that area of the country, unfortunately. I don't think that we have that supporter base like Japan does, for example. There's loads of teams there, but they seem to be like football in a different way than fans do here. I just don't think it would work. And also, you need to have, like I said before, a proper football-specific stadium to be able to make sure that the match day experience is enjoyable. Because do you really want to be going to watch a game in front of with 400 people there in Iksan? It's like there's just no point. You know what I mean?
Well, I know who to ask. Andrew, would you like to go and watch a game with 400 people in Iksan?
So much of this, I feel like I can relate to all of this. On my notes here, I had the Iksan population and the distance to Jeonju, the Gunsan population and the distance to Jeonju, and the Jeonga population and the distance to Jeonju. It's the same thing. Actually, when you look at the province of Jeollabuk, though, Jeonju is in the perfect spot. It's not like it's isolated from all these other towns. It's almost right in the middle of the province. So I know it's not overly ideal to travel 40 odd kilometers from Gunsan to go watch Jeonbuk Motors play, but it's not out of the way. Like these towns are all pretty connected. They're all close to each other. I had the attendances here too. There's only twice this season Jeonbuk got over 20,000, but 5 times they had an attendance of less than 10,000 this season. Based on this, and Jeonju is not a particularly small town, so based on this, you would think they don't need another football club. If there was a club put into Iksan, I doubt it would have a massive impact. To be honest with you, on Jeonbuk Motors, I have nothing to base that on. I get the feeling that Iksan would probably get a couple of hundred people, as you were saying, but Jeonbuk's attendance would stay the same. But no, I don't want to go to a 25,000 seater stadium, as Peter said, that Iksan has, because every city in Korea has a 25,000 seater stadium that's got one roof cover, it's got a running track, it's got absolutely no facilities in the stadium, and the stadium's always a bit of a walk from somewhere else. Just last month, I was in Paju, which holds about 25,000 people. There were 400 people at the game. We don't need any more 25,000 seater stadiums with 400 people at it. So, John Buck, this motion has been denied.
There we go.
Well, yeah. Well, two things I want to say on that. One, we should also at this point say there is another team in Jeonju. There is Jeonju Citizen. They're in K3.
Right.
So we should probably specify at this point this is a request for a team in K League 1 and K League 2. Because we're not disregarding K3, K4. To be honest, I'd quite like to see Jeonju Citizen come up, but I don't know whether 2 clubs in Jeonju. Yeah, it might be fun. Who knows? But yeah, I kind of have a soft spot for Jeonju Citizen Stadium, the old civil stadium. It's an absolute. Well, it was an absolute dump when John Book were there for half a season, but the toilets were locked and everything. It was an absolute mess. But it's so close to the bus station and so close to Book Day and stuff in Jeonju. It's actually a better location to go out in afterwards. But also, just on top of that, just because you're talking about Iksan, and it reminded me a bit of K-League trivia. Now, I am just purely going off the Wikipedia, but nobody's corrected this in years, and it's still there. But the history of Goyang Zaikro before they went defunct. Goyang Zaikro had a slight stint in Iksan as Hallelujah FC. They moved to Iksan in 2003 and joined the Korean National League, finishing a credible 3rd. I'm reading this straight off the pages, so please forgive me if it's wrong. But they're prevented from competing in the 2nd stage after protests by radical Won Buddhists led to the club being barred from playing in Iksan. So it does say citation needed. I think this is a call for somebody to please find that citation. I want to know what happened there. So we'll see.
That's a great name for a band, that, by the way. Radical Buddhists.
Well, it might be. Anyway, please find that out. I want to know that. I know it says citation required. It might be absolute rubbish, but it's been on that Wikipedia for years, and I keep coming back to it, keep thinking, I've got to bring this up. And just you mentioning having a football team in Iksan, I thought somebody's tried this before. It happened. Have a look into it. Somebody please get in touch. Anyway, we're going to have a break.
Can I just one point?
Oh,
Can I
yeah.
have with you guys one point there? Because you guys are both from England. I've heard many English people before saying that Ixan is the crew of England. Does that make any sense? I understand what they're saying
Crew.
because every train goes through it. Or would Dejon be the crew of England?
Dejon is probably more like the
I would see Dejon like Birmingham, to be honest.
Well, no, Dejon's a bit more like Preston, actually, because all the trains that go from Scotland, and then into the north of England, and then to the south, go through Preston. So I don't know.
Yeah,
a crew's not a bad shout. Yeah,
don't want to stop there usually.
No,
anyway,
well, not really.
No. Shout out to everybody in Ixan. Anyway, we're gonna have a quick break, and we'll be back with more presents. Oh, are we keeping it? We didn't decide.
No, there's no chance there's going to be another team.
Sorry, Peter. We've got to reject one. We'll see you at the pizza school. All right, have a quick break.
Fans, we want to hear from you. You're encouraged to email KLU at info@kleagueunited.com or tweet at KLeagueUnited with any questions, comments or reactions. Or ask directly during one of our live shows.
And welcome back to the K-League United podcast. Matthew Binns here, and I'm joined by my elves, Paul Neat and Andrew Farrell. Elves, cracking movie that as well, if you've been watching Christmas. Do you have a Christmas movie, Paul? Just out of interest.
Favorite is a Home Alone discussion. It's got to be Home Alone, the first one. It's got to be. Essential watching every Christmas. Has to be.
Fair play. And yourself, Andrew?
I don't think you can go wrong with Bad Santa. It's the most fun movie to have a beer with, the Billy Bob Thornton one. It's not much of a family Christmas movie, obviously, but it's a lot of fun. I was actually glad the other day they had Die Hard on the television here, because kind of flicking through my stations, there's very few Christmas movies on. And it's like the same stuff. There's a Steven Seagal movie on every night of the week. There's a Liam Neeson movie on every night of the week. They don't really go for the Christmas movies like we would at home. Mm-hmm. But I was delighted to see Die Hard was on there the other night.
It's the wrong kind of podcast to be discussing this, but is Die Hard a Christmas movie? That seems a bit cliche.
Movie that you watch at Christmas.
Get that in the comments. Which K-League player would you like to see in a Christmas movie? I don't know. I mean, I'll link it back somehow. But what I will do is bring us back on topic quickly, because we are taking discussions off, writers, friends of the podcast, writers past as well. And we are discussing them. One of us is usually playing devil's advocate, so sometimes just playing them for real, to be honest, some of these opinions. And we have got a timer. We have forgot to use it so far. I may be a bit stricter on it in this second section, if I remember. But we're going to delve back under the tree for the fourth present of this podcast. And presenting the fourth present of the podcast is none other than K-League TV commentator Alex Jensen.
Hello, Merry Christmas, everybody, as evidenced by the little Christmas tree in the background. Not an accident. No, I'm really happy with the way the last season's gone, apart from the fact the title race was wrapped up a little too soon. It was really exciting, top, bottom, middle, and had a lot for me to talk about as a commentator, so I'm very grateful for that. But of course, things can always improve, and what I'd love actually to see in 2024 is better marketing by K-League clubs themselves. Too often I still speak to people here in Korea who, when they talk about football, gravitate towards other countries, other leagues. Now, it's understandable, of course, the Premier League's wonderful, you've got Korean involvement there, the level's very high, but here in Korea, the level's also improving all the time. And I feel like people are unaware, or they're undervaluing the experience that's available to them. And clubs can better tell their stories in Korean and in other languages to reach out to more people and to raise awareness. We should see more presence of these clubs. For example, when you're in Seoul and you go shopping, if you want to buy a football shirt, yes, you can find a Man City shirt, but why can't you find an FC Seoul shirt that easily? Even if you go to FC Seoul's club shop, they're often sold out. So that's what I'd love to see, not just FC Seoul, throughout the league. And K-League too as well, why not? More confidence in themselves. FC Seoul and clubs of that stature should be the Manchester Uniteds of Asia and beyond. I've been saying that for a few years. Why is it not happening? I think part of the reason is that these clubs don't necessarily fully believe in themselves, or there are too many different decision-making processes going on behind the scenes. Perhaps you guys can debate that further as to what's holding that marketing process back. But there's a lot of money there behind the scenes that could be devoted to things like this, efforts that would make the K-League more prosperous around the world and even here at home, to build on what was a fantastic 2023 with record attendances that I think could grow more in 2024 and beyond, and grow our community of K-League fans.
Alex Jensen there from K-League TV fame, and well, preaching to the choir really. Obviously,
Absolutely.
This podcast definitely exists to try and push K-League, and it would be great if the clubs were in sync with that. But before we go into all the things we agree with, that surely somebody has to disagree. K-Leagues shouldn't be marketing themselves. Paul,
how can I argue with that? No, I mean. My club are a prime example of this. Like when Hannah took over, a lot of the sort of spiel was about becoming a global football club, right? So, but only recently did they change their name on Instagram to be in English. It was just DHFC for a long time, and even that, it could be anybody. So, listen, they also make great videos on YouTube, lots of behind the scenes sort of. Kind of documentaries for every game, and they're fantastic. They're very, very well made, but they very rarely, if ever, have them with English subtitles. I know it takes a lot to be able to put them through a translator and be able to sort of do that, but they would be able to reach, they would be reach anybody really. They could reach anybody that they really wanted to be able to sort of show what goes on behind the scenes at a football club in South Korea. Now, can marketing be an arm of sales? Well, there are very few clubs that even allow you to buy shirts and merchandise overseas, right? Very few. John Book are one of them, I think, so is Pohang Steelers, but very few of them do. You have to have a login or a phone number, a Korean phone number to be able to verify who you are, to be able to order things. Even in this country, it's a pain to sort of get merch. Stock is low, as Alex just sort of talked about. The only way you can really get merch at Daejeon is on match day. Same with most teams. FC Seoul, to their credit, are the only team that I know of that their shop is open all week. But most clubs are not. It's only so I like my merch, right? We've talked about this before, I think, but I haven't bought any merch this season from Daejeon because I've been to 3 home games, okay, and there's always a long queue outside the club shop. And then when I went in for the 3rd time on the last game of the season, there was nothing left.
Yeah.
So I get that, as the season goes on, you're going to sell a lot of stuff, but there wasn't even any shirts available. They had this sort of weird system where it was like a pre-order thing, or they had like a certain amount, and they sold out really quickly. Really, really quickly. How can they sell out of shirts? How did you not know that people will want to buy more shirts? It's like Incheon as well. They sold out of their ACL shirts. How can you have sold out? If more people want them, sell more of them. How can you not have known? The same with Daejeon. How can you not have known that the following year, after having a very good season, that fans are going to want to buy more stuff? How can you not have anticipated that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, and the argument is, yeah, but they sold more shirts than they have in the last 3 or 4 years. Well, yes, because they won promotion to K-League 1 for the first time in 8 years. Incheon in the ACL for the first time ever. Of course they've sold more. It's mental. How can you not understand supply and demand? I don't understand it. So yeah, there's not a single word I can argue with what Alex said.
I think I'd back up. Well, just to also create your point there as well with John Book selling things overseas, they stopped that as well. And every time they've tried it, it's because actually, to be honest, I think it's not profitable. Overseas things, I can kind of see. Okay, maybe it doesn't sell that much, but perhaps they could make some kind of exceptions. But the other point you make, the stock point, that does drive me mad because you get to a point like about August, September, and there's no kits available.
Not left, mad.
Yeah, and if you want a John Book kit for Christmas or any kit for Christmas, you're usually a bit stuck. As you said, Seoul do have their club shop open 6 of 7 days a week. And I will say I've seen Daegu shirts because they have the manufacturer. Oh,
Goal Studio.
That's the one. Goal Studio. Thank you. Yeah, Goal Studio. I've seen them actually get their kits. A couple of friends came over for my wedding recently, and they all left with Daegu kits, which, well, basically they're under strict instruction for me not to buy a Seoul shirt. They could have any shirt they want, which was a bit of a challenge considering there was no other shirts available. But yeah.
But the league has got a broadcast deal with Coupang Play. Why can't Coupang sell shirts? Because
Yeah,
Coupang obviously is an e-commerce company, right?
Yeah,
it's like Amazon, right? Why can't they sell shirts on there?
It would go hand in hand, wouldn't it? You think? But alas, here we are. Sorry, Andrew. I've not even let you. I mean, this is such a topic where I think we're all on the same side, but we've all got so many things to say about it. But Andrew, any thoughts on really any of that?
Yeah, you could turn off the buzzer. It's probably a good idea just to turn off the buzzer for this particular segment. I agree with absolutely everything that Alex said and what Paul said as well. The kids thing really bothers me too, the whole store thing, because I don't have a team, so I like going to the stadiums and I love buying stuff. When you go to Europe, buy a T-shirt or buy like a silly hat or something with I don't know Feyenoord or Anderlecht, whatever on it. I brought a friend of mine to Ulsan Munsu Stadium back in August when they played against John Motors, and his choice in the middle of August, it was hot. It was unbelievably hot outside. It was either they had loads of jerseys. The one thing I will say, they had loads of jerseys, but it was either a jersey that was about 100,000 won or it was a scarf. Who wants to buy a scarf that's 25,000 won in August? Wear that again. So there's not only are the stores are all way too small, and you have to queue. I hate queuing to go into a store like that. It should just the store should be way bigger. Suwon built a new one, a Big Bird, and it's still way too small, and you have to queue up for 30 minutes just to get inside. And when you get in there, either the stock is sold out or the stock is pretty crap. That whatever they've left, they don't have enough variety of stuff. And I really hate that because I want to go to these different K League One stadiums and buy something from their store, give them some more money, and then wear that. Like in a podcast like this, or next time I go back and watch the game. But pretty much all I have are two Songnam jerseys. That's all I have. I don't really have anything else because it's too expensive. Everything is too expensive, and it's not what I want to buy. That's one thing I'd say. The other thing as well, then, is like around the time. I think Alex kind of mentioned that there's no apart from like that one road that goes up to the stadium, there's no visibility of the club anywhere. Until you see the floodlights, you don't even know that there's a professional club playing in this neighborhood. And I think Suwon FC have it worse because they're beside a ballpark, beside a baseball stadium. And even like the bus stops are designed like a baseball dugout, and all the flower bushes are of a baseball and stuff. And you wouldn't know there's a professional football team in the neighborhood. And I just think things like that are horrendous. They need to fix that. I wish there was more presence of the football club in the city. And then the other thing I'd say is just looking at their social media too. Like some of it is pure garbage. Like when I go onto the Blue Wings one, for example, after they got relegated, I was kind of seeing which way their social media was going, and it's not over till it's over. A lot of these type of jargon in English that's everywhere doesn't really mean anything, and there's no engagement there. There's no way for like a casual fan or a new fan just to jump on with that and think this is a football club I want to know more about. There's nothing there. There's nothing to get excited about. There's nothing to buy when you go to the stadium. And if you're in Suwon or Pohang or Jeonbuk or Jeonju on a match day, you wouldn't even know there's a game on that corner. I think they really need to fix that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, we also have something in here as well. I just want to point it out. We also have something in from Sorare FC Seoul talking about Sorare. Sorare, obviously, the how can we say? Yeah, the virtual trading cards with the. I know I've really undersold it there. I apologise, but yeah, Sorare has been one of the best marketing drivers for the league in the last few years. Shame there were issues with the live scoring this season. Actually, I only briefly knew about the live score issues with that. I'll be honest, Sorare is not my cup of tea, but I know that it's something we have looked at as well on this podcast and something we have at one point also been associated with. But I can't deny that it has certainly had driven an international audience for a while as well to this league, and it's just a shame that the clubs can't actually drive it themselves as well. Yeah,
it's frustrating because they do a little bit, but then don't really follow it through properly, and it makes when that happens, you kind of lose faith with something, don't you? You know what I mean? So the Sorare thing, yeah, it was great to have that increased interest for a couple of years, and then now they've fumbled this data thing. It's like, well, now what? You know, fix it. Stop just like pretending the issue doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Just fix it or drop it completely. Don't just sort of do a half-assed version of it.
Yeah. Anyway, right, we're gonna have to move on. I'm gonna end it there. We've all got lots of things to say about marketing. I'm sure people as well do have lots of things to say about marketing. Please say it in the comments. Before we move on, there is greetings from a roadside restaurant in Bangkok. That's Ryan Walters.
Who?
Michael's not that. Yeah, I never heard of him. He's currently.
Is it minus 14 degrees in Bangkok right now, like it is here?
Yeah, he's really not winning any favors here by telling us where he is. That's for sure.
28 degrees. It says
he says it is, but unfortunately, that's not in relation to that question. He does believe that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And we also have hello from Seoul. That's Korea 4K. And also at the beginning of the podcast as well, we also had Dario Ficcardi coming in saying Happy Christmas to you all. Happy Christmas, Dario. Anyway, back under the tree. We've spent a lot of time on that one. We've got two more before the next break. Next up in our Christmas list is Ben Griffiths coming in with his thoughts.
Hey everybody, what I want for K-League Miss is for managers to maybe play at a little bit faster passing tempo when in possession of the ball. I think this could be really valuable to teams to be able to stretch the opposition defense a little bit better, a little bit more maybe. If you go left to right, maybe you'd also try to bait the entire opposition defense to go towards the right flank, and then you can push out to the left flank a lot faster. You can get into the final third more. You can get in the final third faster as well. I think that technically we're able to do that with the players we have right now in the K-League. I mean, we have defenders and midfielders that are really good on the ball, whether it's, quickly if they have to make a decision quickly or if they have more time. And I think we also have a lot of attackers that can drop in an impact play as well. I think that tactically this would be really good because the opposition defenders might not be used to defending at such a high speed. If they're pressing, they're the ones initiating that fast tempo, but if they're having to react to such a faster tempo than we've seen the past couple seasons, that could spread them even further, and it could be really dangerous for a manager that decides to do this. I think it would really help not just their team, but also the league. The goals scored would be, I think, a little bit higher. Technically, I think players would develop more because they'd have less time on the ball to make decisions, not because they're pressed as much maybe, but because they're asked to do everything at a higher tempo. So I think that that's what I want for K-League Miss. I think it is a really interesting component that we haven't seen to the extent that we see in Japan or that we see in Germany right now, that these long possession chains would be at such a fast pace, and to have players just be at 100% all the time. I really am hoping that we can see that in 2024.
Ben Griffiths there coming in with his thoughts on K-League football. And yeah, Ben, obviously he's great with all the stats. Some of the graphs he puts out on Twitter and his tactical pieces as well are intriguing. And he makes a good, intriguing point there with tactical analysis, talking about faster tempo. He is preaching to the choir somewhat, and I may have to oppose him just to give us some balance. But Andrew, anything to add to Ben's thoughts there before we do?
Yeah, I find it interesting. It's not connected to the first question we talked about with the foreign quota, but it does tie back into that a little bit. A couple of times he mentioned Japan and that, and I know, like I've mentioned before on the podcast, and I've mentioned it probably to both you guys in passing too, but I think I saw Kachki's first game for Suwon. It was either against Pohang or Daegu, and by the end of the game, they were just chanting his name because he was doing exactly what Ben said there. It was just instead of the kind of typical 1 yard sideways pass, give and go that you see a lot from some of the K League midfielders, he had a range of passing along the ground and in the air, short and long, that was brilliant to watch. It was breathtaking stuff. Actually, it was one of the better debuts I'd seen in this league, and that is a way, obviously, of just getting the ball quicker to your attackers. And if you've got, like, I know Kim Ji Chan was probably, I'm not sure if he's playing, but either way, but that's the kind of young guy that you want to have up front as well, who can exploit all that. I agree totally. I just think there's a lot of sameness when you watch some of the K League teams, and sometimes the build up is a little bit slow, and there's a lot of touches in around the halfway line. But I like when you see one of those, and it's not just a foreign player, it's not just a Japanese player. When you see a guy who's able to spread passes like that, really good ball control, can pick out a good pass, it just makes the game much more interesting. Obviously, you don't want everybody to do it because you want to have a little bit more variety. But I think it was a good point. I think it would just make the games a little bit more interesting. And if you Gerson Fernandez playing up front, I'm not saying Incheon are guilty of this, But even a guy like Urso up front, you would have thought that getting the ball to him as quickly as possible is exactly what you should be doing.
Yeah. Paul, anything to add?
My instinct here is to pass it straight back to you. But no, what I will say actually is is about what Andrew said there about Kazuki, is that the Japanese midfielders, they like the Koreans play in 4-4 time, right? The Japanese players are in sort of 5-4 jazz sort of thing. They're on a different time signature than the other players. So maybe we're kind of contradicting ourselves a bit by not increasing the foreign quota, or certainly by not by making sure that we keep the AFC quota, because I think we need that a little bit. I think the Korean midfielder instinctively just goes from side to side.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's more about how these players are coached, isn't it? You know, like it goes back to grassroots level. You have to sort of get some coaches who have been abroad and learn how to coach abroad. Like, for example, the new Suwon FC manager, Kim Won-jung, he was coaching in Europe for a few years. He was with Toulouse in Belgium, if I am saying that correctly. So you might see a different type of sort of approach from people like him, because he has had that education in Europe. But I think it's something that needs to go back to, grassroots level. There's this thing where, you don't want to give the ball away, or you don't want to take a risk, because if you take a risk, it's like you've done something wrong, right? It's like a cultural thing, perhaps. But if you just take that risk, it needs to be taught to players from a very, very early age. So, yeah, I would love to see that, but I think it's more about the coaching philosophy, really.
Yeah, there does need to be a little bit of work, just from the ground up. It'd take years, perhaps, to really get that a shift across the league. But a couple of smart appointments by a team or two could really, brighten up the league and things. But I mean, also for balance, variety is the spice of life, and I quite like it when K-League teams kick a J-League team in the Champions League, because I don't think K-League teams would do that well otherwise against them.
Yeah,
I think a J-League side would probably, if there wasn't that element, it might not be as competitive. But hey, it doesn't matter. Let's see how many Champions League trophies there still are in Korea.
Who cares about the Champions League?
Banging that drum, doesn't matter.
Not Saudi Arabia. We're not.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
Anyway, but no, that's a great argument from Ben. I'm probably going to say that gets granted, along with Alex's earlier, which we didn't really say. Anyway, Paul, it's another ghost visiting you on this. Well, he's not a ghost, but another Barnsley fan, I should say. Anyway, here he is, Scott Whitelock.
The year was 2017, and Kwon Chang-hoon left Suwon. Around about the same time, EJ Song also left the K-League, and from my time in Korea supporting the K-League, that was the first that I knew of good, great young talents going abroad. Since then, we've had a host of big-name young talents in K-League go abroad. From Suwon, we've lost Jong Sang-bin and Oh Hyung-gyu over the last few seasons, which have definitely contributed to Suwon's relegation to K2. And almost every K1 team or K2 team have had their best players either rumoured or actually gone to Europe or abroad. What I'd like to see K-League stop doing is selling their best young talents. If you want to make a league good, you grow your league by keeping your best talents within it. That could also include actually letting players move to China and Japan on big money contracts. If you want to make your league better, you keep the talent within it, you don't let it go. So I'd like to see the talent stay here.
Scott Whitelock there. Great to have him back on the podcast. More throwbacks than a Doctor Who Christmas special in this episode today. But yeah, Scott there talking about do not send your youth. Do not send the best young talent to Europe. Keep them in the K-League for as long as possible. And although I did set this up for you, Paul, it's actually Andrew who is playing the role of Grinch on this one.
Okay. Look, I think we'd all love to see that happen, wouldn't we? I don't think any of us would deny that. How do you stop it though? That's just like the only thing. And I think the only way you could really stop that is just seriously inflated transfer fees or something. Because I think a lot of these players would obviously want to go abroad. They want to get an education somewhere else. It's obviously really beneficial to them. What do you think Jurgen Klinsmann wants out of this too, and the underage coaches in Korea? It'd be great to see the best young players stay in Korea, but it's like this in every development league. There's always that circle shaped thing that they always talk about, where there's a lot of guys who are really young, a lot of guys who are really old. But anybody who's of a certain quality in that kind of 21 age upwards, if they're of a certain quality, they're going to go, and they're going to want to go as well. So, yeah, I'd love to see. He said, stop selling young players, the best young players, keep all the best talent within the country. It'd be great if we could do that, but I just don't know how you could even start that, to be honest.
Paul, how could you?
I disagree and I agree at the same time. Now, the examples that he gave. So, Lee Song left for a very small fee, and he went to a second division team in Germany, which I thought was absurd. Jung Sang Bin was another one that he gave an example of, and he hasn't played either. He went to Grasshoppers in Switzerland, didn't play, and then he was in MLS with Minnesota. There's rumors of him going to come back to Suwon Blue Wings. So obviously that hasn't worked out. So in those kind of examples, and with Oikon Gil as well, he's not really playing every week for Celtic. So it's more about not the clubs, but the agents or these advisors to these players giving these people proper advice, because Lee Song has gone to Europe, and he's gone to play in Europe, and now he's playing for Mainz in the first division in Germany, but he's not won anything, and now he's got to that age now where he's 32. What's he really done in Europe? Nothing. So it's more about advice given to players and making sure that it is the right move. What really irks me, because I can understand a player wanting to go to Europe, and I think Korean teams, they kind of like the idea, or certainly people within the club, they like the idea of being the ones who sent a player to Europe. Okay, if they become big, it's like, oh yeah, I was the guy who sold him to Bayern Munich or whatever, right? What irks me most is players going to Japan for sideways at best moves. Look at Oh Se-hoon from Ulsan. He went to Shimizu S Pulse, is it? If I'm pronouncing that correctly. And then we had Nasangho went to Tokyo. Okay, they're a big club, FC Tokyo. Didn't work out. He came back. Now there's rumors of him going to another club in Japan that's not even. I think it's a team that won the J2 last
He just
year.
came up, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, what is that move? You know, it gets to a point. I know he's out of contract now, so it's not as if they're trying to sell him. But teams need to be more organized. The FC Seoul had some of their top stars out of contract all at the same time, including Nasangho, and they're wasting time. They should have get these guys tied down to new contracts at least a year before their deals expire. So I don't know. I think it's not just about sending kids to Europe, because obviously, we would like to see good young players stay here. But another argument is you send a player to Europe, they have a career in Europe, and then they become a big draw when they come back. If they come back, because hopefully they do. The one that's the sort of in the recent years, Ki Sung-yong and Lee Chung-yong, they've been to Europe and they've come back and they've done quite well, let's say, for their clubs back here. They only become a big draw to help with attendances here if they've gone to Europe and then had a career there and then come back. So I don't know. I see what Scott's saying, but to me, it's more about these players who take sideways moves to Japan and the Chinese Super League.
Yeah, I don't know where I come down on it. I think two things for me. I think one, Lee Sung, when he moved, I think that was actually a big issue. I think that's kind of it's made it difficult for others to get fair value, because Lee Sung was reigning MVP at the time, and John Buck, because they'd promised to sell him and waited to the summer to sell him, sold him for $1.5 million US. He was the reigning MVP at the time of the K-League, and sold him for that. And that also then kept the fee for Kwon Chang-hun, who was more or less Lee Sung's equal, who then also went for nothing. And I think that's also just kept I find that this lowballing of K-League players, the bigger issue, this constant, oh, we like that player. That player's got lots of potential. We'll give you this fee for it. And I don't think K-League clubs hold out. I don't think they've got the confidence to hold out more. I'd like to see K-League clubs hold out more. I want to see K-League players, good K-League players, go overseas. And, you know, I am pleased when they are successful overseas, but I want the K-League clubs to get fair value. And you also mentioned about Ki Sung-young there. You also mentioned about Lee Chung-young. Well, there's also, until, I don't know whether it's still in place because they were talking about scrapping it, but the first refusal clause in K-League, where if you send a player abroad from a club, you get first refusal on him when he comes back to K-League. And that's what happened with Ki Sung-young, because Seoul couldn't offer him a contract. John Buck could offer him a contract, but for some, I can't remember it now. It's been a while since I looked at that and, you know, shook my fist at it. But he couldn't sign for John Buck, and he had to eventually sign for Seoul that summer because Seoul had this ridiculous clause on him, and Lee Chung-young also had that clause. And sure, it guarantees the player comes back to that club. Perhaps you can see it as that kind of investment, but the way it was handled, the actual law is actually less freedom of movement to the player. And I do believe they've got rid of that rule, or it was in the process. They were reconsidering it anyway. But I do think that K-League clubs, when they do sell them, they should, and if they're not doing it already, should be including like sell-on clauses or clauses to come back and things like this with whoever. You'd hope they're doing it. I do think there's got to be better advice given to clubs. I don't know whether we can keep all the good youth players in K-League, Scott. I want to give it you because I don't want to see those young players get wasted overseas. I hate it when they go overseas.
The example there as well, like Oyeon-gu wasn't he? I'm sure like he's not the only one. When the player starts pushing for the move abroad, then it's even harder to keep them. And 2.5 million, I think Celtic paid for him, is around about that. But maybe the Blue Wings thought he was worth more than that. But once the players at that age start pressing or start pushing for the move, it is really, really hard to keep them. And the low balling of players, unfortunately, again, it's just one of those things that seems to exist in a lot of these, essentially development leagues for other countries. Yeah, as you said, you'd want to think that if the players are going, that fair value is being given for them. If you could at least guarantee that, like even Paul talked about Na Sung Ho there as well. Like, is he pushing for that move to a Japanese team that just got promoted? If he is, then it is kind of worrying that you would have thought that playing with Seoul and playing with a great manager next season as well. Seoul looked like they could have an incredible season with Kim Gi-dong, but is he pushing for a move to a recently promoted Japanese team? So what would you think about the K-League then if the players, some of the higher profile players here, are pushing to make a move that, as Paul said, is, I mean, it's barely even sideways. You kind of wonder why they're even making this move.
Indeed. Right. Well, we'll leave that to the comment section, I guess. But unfortunately, Scott, I'm going to have to say, I begrudgingly don't want to give it, but I wish we could have it. I guess this is a Christmas show. Yeah, go on. We'll have it. But it doesn't, no, it doesn't make sense. But I'd like it to happen. I'm making the rules here. Who cares? All right. Anyway, we're going to have a quick break because why not?
Fans, we want to hear from you. You're encouraged to email KLU at info@kleagueunited.com or tweet at KLeagueUnited with any questions, comments or reactions. Or ask directly during one of our live shows.
Okay, welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm Matthew Binns and I'm joined by Paul Neat and Andrew Farrell, and we are going through a number of Christmas wishes, I guess, and we are deciding whether to grant them or not because we are pretending to have that power. Yes, it is Christmas. People have wrote in what they want to see in the K-League for Christmas, and we are seeing a lot of faces, old and new. And, well, speaking of familiar faces, it's time for that third Barnsley fan, Paul.
Hello. My K-League Christmas wish is to have better kick-off times in the evenings. I think we have a lot of away games on a Sunday that kick off at 6 p.m, 7 p.m, 8 p.m, and it makes it difficult for fans to get home. I know that we've seen crowds improve this year, and to help that, I think if we structure weekend games where it's a long way for fans to travel, If we make sure that the kickoff time is 4:30 or 5 p.m. at the latest, it gives fans a chance to go to the game and get home. If it's a local game, maybe Gyeonggi-do games, later kickoffs are okay. But kicking off at 8 p.m. in Jeju on a Sunday night doesn't help anybody. Likewise, I think midweek games could actually kick off later. Having a 7 p.m. kickoff on a Tuesday or a Wednesday doesn't give people time to get home from work and get to the game. I think perhaps that's when we could have an 8 p.m. kickoff. Anyway, let me know what you think. Thank you very much. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Luke Evans, everyone, from Incheon United fame, obviously. Well, Incheon United Sports Group, but he might play in goal for them one day. You never know. Yeah, Luke, though, there with a point we've all argued at some point. Wish there could be better kickoff times in the K League. Paul, agree much with Luke's argument there?
Oh, absolutely. And playing devil's advocate here, maybe we could if we shifted to the autumn spring sort of calendar that the J League wants to do. But no, I'm just joking. But no, seriously, like, what is wrong with a 3 p.m. kickoff on a Saturday? Why are we having games at 1:30 or even 2? It's 3 o'clock or 4:30 is terrible as well. Why? I don't understand why we have to dilute the sort of viewership or attendances by having games all spread out across the day. Just think about the people who are going to the stadium, okay? But we want to have a game at 1:30 and then one at 2 and then one at 4:30 and then one at 6 so we can never... No one's sitting there in their house all day watching all those games. Surely, right? This isn't lockdown anymore, right? So we need to just get rid of this thing where we have 3 games in K League 1 on a Saturday and then 3 on a Sunday. Have 1 on a Sunday and have all the other games kick off at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. All right, in summer, I know we can't really do that because it's very, very hot. It's very, very humid. But maybe they should scrap all Sunday games in the summer when it's a late kickoff and put them on Friday nights instead. I don't know, but if you get drawn to be playing away at Jeju on a Sunday in the summer, the fans can't go unless you have to stay there overnight and get a hotel and then get a flight back the next day because there's no flights back after a certain time. So yeah, the kickoff times sometimes I can't understand them. They're awful, especially if you want to try and get to an away game that's at the other end of the country. And it's a 1:30 kickoff. No one's going to that, are they?
Well,
so yeah, well, Andrew might, but I mean,
yeah, I was going to say I know somebody who might. But yeah, no, I will say Sunday night at Sogwipo should just be banned, and that's the only one I agree with. That shouldn't be a fixture. Sogwipo at Jeju for international listeners. Sogwipo, the second city of Jeju Island, is on the opposite side of the island to the airport. And you're doing a Sunday night game there, you're not getting back. But Andrew, as somebody who does like a bit of a staggered kickoff time to squeeze in as many things as possible, how's you agree with Luke, or are you going to go against him?
I like the 2 o'clock start. One thing I will say is that one of the great things that the K League has done during the better times of the year, the games kick off at 2 o'clock, 4:30, and 7 o'clock. We can argue about Solgapo at 7 o'clock on a Sunday, but at least like everybody knows that in February, March, April, May, October, November, these are the times the games are on. And I always think it's really important if the league wants to build any sort of a fan base or wants to have regular fans, there has to be a consistent time. You have to know what time the football games are kicking off every weekend. And I think the K League has done a good job on that. I like the fact that there are games at 2. I like the fact that it's basically a set time, and you know that these are the times the games are going to kick off. But the 3 o'clock thing, because I know it's a big thing in Europe and it's a really big thing in England. I think that 1 hour earlier, I like it. I like having the game a little bit earlier because I think there's less time to wait in the day if you're going to an earlier game. You get the game in, it's over by 4 o'clock. It's only a small difference. It's only a small thing, but I like the 2 o'clock game because I think it's just different from what we're normally used to, and I think a little bit of variety is a good thing. The 4:30 game. The thing about Korea as well is a lot of these, as we know, except for Solgapo and maybe games in Chuncheon or Gangneung, a lot of the games, it's not massively difficult to get to a lot of places in Korea. You can do it. Like I know the KTX is more expensive than taking the Mugunghwa or taking the bus, and not everyone wants to take the KTX, but it is doable because Korea is still a small country. So I think having the staggered kickoff times, it does allow you to do something else. And there are times, and it's happened this season. Paul and I availed of this in one opportunity. You can go and see two games in the one day in the same city. And I know that FC Seoul and Seoul Eland, because they're so close to each other now, there have been double header opportunities with those two clubs this season, and there'll be double header opportunities with two Suwon teams. I like it. I like the 2 o'clock start. I kind of like the 4:30 start, especially if you're away from home and you kind of want to see a new city. You're kind of playing around in the daytime, and then by the time the game is over, it's a small thing as well. But I always like when games start in the daytime and finish under the lights. That's what the 4:30 kickoff gives. So I'm going to say the 2 o'clock start and the 4:30 start. I'm down with those. They're fine. The 7 o'clock on a Sunday, you can scrap that.
Right. Maybe we give half a gift then. Let's just one for the stocking rather than under the tree. We just say that you can have the afternoon kickoffs, but we're not messing about with anything late. We'll agree with him there. All right.
2 or 3 o'clock. What would you say to that? Because
I'm going to be honest. I actually quite like the 2 o'clock as well. Sorry, Paul. I got into when I was living in Jeonju and when I was living in Gunsan, the 2 o'clock, it was like a staple. Like, it's Saturday, John Book were often on at 2. And back then, I think more of the games were like 2, and there was 1 at 4. Now I think they tried to get all 3 games on because the Kupang play money. And, it's a bit difficult because you do need that funding. And Kupang Play are trying to show as many games as possible. But I do like having lots of games on at once. I do kind of long for that soccer Saturday kind of feel. You've got multiple games on, and you're sitting there enjoying it all at once, and it's all staggered. Even K League 2 is staggered with K League 1, so you can't even have like two K League 2, a K League 2 and a K League 1 going at the same time because there's an hour difference there. But I will say I do quite like the 2 o'clock and a 4:30. I'm going to leave it. We're going to cut it. I'm just saying that's what's happening. It's half a gift. Check your stockings at Christmas, Luke. You might have something that'll just put a smile on your face. Anyway, we're going to move on to gift number 8 underneath the tree. And, this one comes all the way from Ansan. It's Mike Brandon.
So what do we want in our Ansan stocking this year? Well, please, K Santa, how about a lock on K2 relegation? Do you really think clubs like ours would survive going down to the K3? Perhaps we need more financial structure before we discuss this one a little further, but who knows? Maybe it will go ahead and we'll be asking for parachute payments in our next stocking. But while we're at it, how about a little more of a positive one, if you can fit it in here? And that is, how about a few by-the-pitch stands at the Wa Stadium? It's a wonderful stadium, but it'd be nice to be a little bit closer to the action. We might even get a few more fans in if we do that. And if there's any more room left, well, how about at the bottom of the stocking we find 3 points to kickstart 2024 rather than all that coal that we keep getting in recent years. Anyway, Merry K-League-mas, everyone.
Mike Brandon there, coming in from Ansan, I think. Definitely not a green screen. But no, thanks for that. That was great. Before we address his main gift, I guess we have to address his small gift. Can we give Ansan a few temporary stays? You both been to Ansan? I'm taking.
Yes.
Been there several times. Yeah, it's one of those grounds where the away end isn't behind the goal. It's kind of in the corner. And it's a bit of a trek from Seoul, but it is close to a subway station. There's one across the road, so it is a stadium that I would like to go to. I would like to see Blue Wings away there next year. That would be quite interesting.
I saw the Blue Wings away there this season, and there was a cup game, and it was one of those Wednesday afternoons in April when the air quality was so terrible that they were cancelling baseball games on the same day, but they had K-League or Green FA Cup games on at the same time. Serious health issues that particular day. That was it must have been in late April. So it was warm. The air was atrocious, but I saw the Blue Wings there, and I mean, they that's a close enough drive for the Blue Wings fans to do, and it's up line 1, line 4 to Gojan Station. It's not a hard trek. Yeah, they should get pitch side seats. I mean, Anyang, I think, have done it the best. Anyang have pitch side seats on 3 different sides. It looks great. The fact that only the away fans are far from the field, or far from the pitch, is fine. Who cares? The fact that the 3 home fans, whatever stands, are close to the pitch is the way to go. Because I know Elan are struggling with that a little bit too. It's hard to really get into a game when you're that far from the pitch.
Yeah. Well, his other 2 gifts he wanted a win for Ansan, because I think this is a result of his main gift. He would like a lock on the K League 2, no relegation to K3, which it's been teased year and year, and it might actually come into fruition in the next couple. But put a lock on K2. I've actually got you down as different opinions on this, either forced or not. Andrew, why should we keep a lock on K2?
I'll agree with what he said about the parachute payments, and also there's no point in bringing up K League 3 teams or K3 teams if they're not fully professional and they have like a dedicated media section and they have a proper stadium with structure. You need to, if you're going to allow teams to go up, they should at least have to pass some sort of a test before they're allowed up. But when I saw that question coming in, I was thinking that just sounds like a person or some people who don't want to go to Gimhae, Yangju, Paju, Yangpyeong, Hocheon, whatever it is, on a Sunday at 7 o'clock, and then have to go to work on the Monday. I can understand why they don't want to do it. However, what I will say is that the relegation, if there was a relegation battle in K League 2 was amazing. The season that's just gone by. The title race was fantastic. The playoff race was fantastic. And between God, I've already forgotten the name. Oh, Chanan City FC and Ansan Greeners, the battle to avoid 13th spot was just as interesting. And Ansan stole it really on the last weekend of the season, the last day of the season. You imagine how tight that would have been if you knew one of those teams was going down. And I just think there should be a punishment for finishing bottom, and at the very, very least, a playoff.
Paul, you're in, like I said, Ebenezer Scrooge mode here. You're going to open the basement in the K League. Dejon's been down there once, down at that bottom. Remember that?
Yes, they have. Yeah, 2017, the anniversary year, which is Ansan's first year, and we gave them 3 points in their first ever game. So that was
definitely not motivated then. This
very nice thing to do. No, but seriously, I could not disagree with Mike more. Clubs will never progress if there's no risk involved, if there's no danger. Okay, so I had a look at all the teams that have finished in the bottom 2 in the K League 2 over the last, since 2013. Okay, now I won't name them all, but there are some repeat offenders in here. If you take away Ansan Police, there's only one team that has won promotion to K League 1 or won the title. Okay, and that's Daejeon. Okay. And that came after investment. So, okay, it's a little bit skewed in that aspect. But the season before the takeover, they did finish bottom of the table, in the bottom 2 at least. Some clubs have gone on to be extinct that have finished in that bottom 2. Cheongju Homul and Goyang Zankro being the 2. So 11 teams in total have finished in the bottom 2 of K League 2. Okay, 6 have been in the playoffs at some stage. Only 5 have done so after finishing in the bottom 2. So either the following season or seasons thereafter. Okay. So having no relegation means that there is no risk. There's no urgency to invest. There's no real sort of pressure to make the right decision in terms of a manager or recruitment. Okay. Ansan could well have got into the playoffs if they'd have had a bit of urgency behind them. They almost did in 2019, but they obviously they fell short. If the manager, if over the last 2 seasons, if they'd had real danger of going down, they would have done something about it. They would have been a bit better in their recruitment. They'd have hired the right manager. They wouldn't have given just some random caretaker the job for half a season. They'd have been a bit more measured and calculated in what they were doing. Also, from a K3 point of view, there are some good teams in K3. Some who are pretty much professional, all but in name, really. And there's some good young players there who won't get opportunities to play at a pro level if there's no promotion to K League 2. So I completely disagree. I think there needs to be relegation, and it needs to happen soon.
All right. I will come down and say there has to be relegation, but I do think there should be things in place to make sure that the K3 league teams that come up are in a situation to come up. Like, so yeah, you can be in a promotion place in the K3 league, but if you haven't got the facilities or meet the minimum requirements of a professional team, then the promotion cannot happen. So then it just keep going down the league until somebody does get promoted, perhaps. I don't know. But I do agree with the threat of relegation. So, Mike, I am going to say, I'm sorry, that lock's coming off the K-League 2 basement, but you can watch those K3 teams from the nice temporary stands we'll put in. Anyway, thanks for that, Mike. We have one more present left under the tree. And, well, I'm sure listeners have probably guessed who it might be by now. But we couldn't keep him away from the podcast for the whole season. So last but definitely not least, maybe not from a roadside restaurant in Bangkok, but somewhere, it's Ryan Walters.
Greetings from a very balmy Bangkok, where I have but one wish this K-League miss, and it is to redo the playoffs, because as anybody knows, I'm a big fan of playoffs. But the way that they are now is very, very broken. It favors the K-League 1 teams way too much. A two-leg system is boring. Nobody wants it. My proposed solution, if you finish 11th or 12th, you're done. You're out of K-League 1. Sorry, too bad. And then you have a final weekend in a neutral ground where we have the playoff champion from K-League 2 awarded a spot in K-League 1. So the 3 teams that'll be in that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, that will finish up at a neutral ground on a Saturday, where we can reward some of these stadiums, these football-specific stadiums like Daegu, which would be a great spot for it. Incheon would be a great spot for it. Or it's a really nice way to get some of the venues that aren't used very often, I'm looking at you, Youngin, and get fans to these stadiums. Get people in. Make it a festivity. Make it an event. You have something on Friday night to get people ready to go. Some players are there. It's super exciting. It's fun. And then on Saturday, you have the playoff final. And on Sunday, you end the year. You end the calendar year. And yes, the calendar year. Don't mess with the calendar, K-League. I love you for not doing it. You end the year with the FA Cup. You end with 2 trophies. You win a trophy for getting into K-League 1. Why not? Hand out some silverware. And then you end everything with the FA Cup on that Sunday. It is a fun way to end the weekend. Fans can go and have an entire 3-day event. They can enjoy themselves. And that is how you sign off the year for K-League. Not this Wednesday night nonsense. Leave it be. All right. Bye.
Looks cold out there in Bangkok. Can't believe there's any
Bangkok.
No, that's Ryan Walters there coming in with some banging a drum. He's banged for a long time, but
balmy or balmy with those ideas. Am I right?
No, well, who's on Grinch duty for this one? I've actually got Andrew down. For this one. But unless Paul's also going in on this one, I
want to say something, because I was against this format originally, but now I'm a little bit torn. The playoff excitement in the last 2 seasons has been really good, because there's been a big team involved in them for the last 2 seasons, obviously Suwon Blue Wings, right? But if they keep it this way, they at least need to put the games on different days. Why on earth were both games on at the same time, on the same day? It's ridiculous. I understand last year because of the World Cup, and they had to get things done before the World Cup, right? I understand that. But this year, why were the 2 games on Wednesday and then, was it Sunday? I forgot.
Yeah, it's to stop, obviously, like you have on the final day of the season, they'll play at the same time to stop each other interfering. It's just in case, like Suwon decide, we're going to stay up. Oh no, but Gangwon, we want to play Gangwon next season. So and Gangwon have gone down. So let's both go down.
Want that Galaby on the away trip, so we need to sort of make sure that we go down as well. Yeah, I do not get it at all. So if this is how they want to do it, if this is how they want to proceed with this format, with the games on at the same time, and they couldn't even sell the rights, the broadcast rights to different countries to put it on. It's like, what? It was the best part of the season. The title race was boring. It's done. ACL was a bit, a little bit of danger because John Book didn't quite, they finished 4th. the real excitement was in the bottom end of the table for most of that last half of the season, really, especially the last sort of 6 rounds. And they only managed to sort of sell 2 games in Final B, and also they had 1 leg each of the playoffs. So they had 1 leg of one game on with English commentary, and then the second leg of the other. I mean, a right mess of it. So if this is how they want to do it, I agree with Ryan. Scrap it.
Yeah. I will, before I let Andrew loose on it, I'm going to actually say I kind of actually like quite a lot of the idea there. I do think I'd like 2 to go down. I do actually like the drama of a promotion relegation playoff, but I would prefer it 1 leg, and I would prefer that to be in a neutral ground. And not Yongin. He lost me at the word Yongin. When he said Yongin, I that zoned out there. I thought that monorail to Everland.
But also a trophy for the winner if it's the K League 2 team. Definitely need to have a trophy. Definitely.
Yeah, well, Dejan needs something in their silverware cabinet, I'm sure.
He's only got 1 in there. 2,
I love
actually.
that Busan just keep missing out on the same trophy every year. Really rub it in. Anyway, Andrew, tell us why this is wrong.
I got lost because the first time I heard about this, I thought you were originally talking about 3 up and 3 down.
Mm-hmm.
When I first read your message, I'm like, that is the wildest thing I've ever. Imagine 3 teams going down in a 12-team league automatically. You start of February, you know that 25% of you are gone by the end of the year. 2 plus 1 is fair. However, I get it. I get it. And I get the feeling that if it was that way, if it was 2 down automatically and 1 was going down in the playoff, we probably wouldn't be having a conversation to say, let's put 1 down and have 2 go into a playoff. We'd probably just be content with the way it is. It would make more sense. But again, I just got to say that from this season anyway, I love the end of this season, and I don't mind the 2-legger playoff. Ryan mentioned there make it a festivity. The problem is that the games were poorly attended, except for the Gangwon FC home game against Gimpo. There were only 4,000 people in Busan on a Wednesday night, and there are only 6,000 people in Suwon. So if you have Suwon FC versus Busan in Daegu on a Saturday in a winner takes all, I don't think you're going to make it a festivity. I don't think a lot of people are going to travel to that game. Definitely from Suwon. I think the fact that they got 6,000 added is actually quite a miracle. It looked like there was going to be nobody added. I was looking at ticket sales during the week. I loved the 2-legged final. I know it's rare, it's a little bit unique, but I thought it made it really exciting. And to see Suwon beaten and then knowing that they had to go and win at home to stay up, I thought that was great. But I do agree with what Paul said though. Like, it is just so ridiculous but both games are on the same day at the same time. And I'm absolutely sure, and we were looking at this, I think it was when Paul and I were at the Suwon doubleheader in early November or late October. I'm 100% sure they said that the playoff second legs were going to be on at 2 and 4 on the Saturday, because we were looking at the possibility if both Suwon teams had home finals, that we could make both games. So like one person go to one, you know what I mean, and just miss the start of the other game. I can't verify it now, but I get the feeling they may have changed that. But it's that part of it's crazy. But I think 3 down and 3 up would be ridiculous. Obviously, I think 2 down and 1 in a playoff. I could work with that. Okay, let's just go with that. But if we're going to fix something first, we got to fix the K League 2 playoff system. There's no way you should be able to advance in a 1-legged game by drawing at home. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, fully agree with that. It's awful, absolutely awful. And my team went through in 2021. They drew 0-0 with the Dragons and went through, and I still disagree with it. It's terrible. You've got to get rid of that. The home team, being the home team, that is the advantage.
Yeah,
you're at home.
The only thing I'd add, well, I don't like the second leg, but if you are going to go for a second leg final, I think both games should be on a Saturday. I think both teams should be allowed to have the closest they can get to full attendances. So I don't. You have a game on a Wednesday night. I think it automatically puts the K League 2 team on the back foot. You still get teams coming out, fans coming out on a Wednesday night, but I think you put it on a Saturday. Let both clubs get as much as they can out of it. But I still prefer a single leg final. I'd prefer it in a stadium between the two teams. I'm not a fan of when everybody says that we have it in Seoul. There isn't that go down to Wembley culture in Korea, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It just has to be a stadium equidistant, ideally a football specific one. But that's my opinion on it. I think
Do you think we'll be having the same conversation now? I know you're saying like this is something that's been bubbling for a while, but Busan were 12 minutes away, holding a 3-1 aggregate lead. Do we have the same conversation now if they don't bottle it? Maybe we do, but it's just the fact that they threw away a 3-1 aggregate lead with 12 minutes to go.
For me,
has probably shaped the landscape here a bit.
Maybe, but for me, it's more about the sort of K-League 2 teams that have been doing really well. They're doing everything right off the pitch, or they've been like Anyang, for example. You know, it's just you just feel like it's the same argument that I make about there should be relegation from K-League 2, because if you have more teams able to go up, they're going to grow as clubs if they get into the top flight. So we need more teams to be able to go into the top flight, not fewer. So to me, it's not about this year Busan failed. I'm more gutted about Gimpo failing, really.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd second that. Actually, Busan. I think as long as the final's exciting, it doesn't matter. I only get annoyed when it's an absolute dross of a final and ends up the K1 team staying up, because of course they do. It's in their favor. I think it's all theoretical. I think from a theoretical perspective, and the games can happen. The games can be amazing and whatever that, but before the games are even played, it's structured to keep things as they are. And I think that's what annoys me more, because it's like you've given the home team the advantage in all the legs in the playoffs, and then you're giving the K1 team the advantage by having the second leg at home and
on a weekend.
Yeah. So I think that's what annoys me more. I think if it was more spread out, if there was double legs, if there was lots of, there's lots of ways to counter it. I do actually quite like the promotion relegation playoff. Maybe pull it at random. Who gets to go at home first? Who gets to go home at second?
What did you make of his other point about the FA Cup, though? I thought that was an interesting. I don't agree with it just because there is the outside possibility. Like Jeju made the FA Cup semi-finals, didn't they? There is the outside possibility the team could be in a promotion battle in the same weekend.
Busan who did it Busan did it in 2018, didn't it? I guess in those cases you just have to move. It couldn't be done, but
I think the season should end with the playoffs, though. I think the FA Cup should come before that. Like I understand what you're saying, it's a showpiece event, but I just like that the season ends with how K-League 1 and K-League 2 finish. Where the teams end up the following season, that should be the last day of the season.
Well, I quite like the idea of how it used to be in the FA Cup, where it was all played. Every round was played right at the end of the season. So when Dejun won it in 2001, they finished bottom of the league in K-League 1, well, in the K-League. And then the FA Cup was played after, and they won the FA Cup. So if you don't have, if the FA Cup is played completely separately in its entirety somewhere else in the season, either at the beginning like the K-League Cup used to be, or at the end like the FA Cup was, then you don't have that, but we can't be arsed with the FA Cup. It's too much of a distraction. We'll play the kids. We won't take it seriously. And there's teams that have got nothing to play for in the league. Suddenly they have, we can win a cup here. I don't know. Just put it out there.
I think I get what you're saying, but I'd still keep it as it is. But what I'd like is the actual FA Cup to be on the Saturday, and we'll just move a K-League game back to midweek. Make the FA Cup rounds, the rounds on the weekend, because I think that would actually rekindle a bit of interest in it. It's most of the time
they butchered the FA Cup this season. This was
awful. This year has just been an absolute mess, to be honest. But it is what it is. And so I guess, speaking of messes, we're going to give Ryan a haphazard Christmas gift here, where we've given many different answers, many different solutions, not necessarily the one he wants. But he might get a couple of changes that
He's in Bangkok. He's fine.
Yeah, he's in Bangkok. He gets the nice weather as well. So there we go. All right, and with that, then we better wrap this up because this we've done a 90 minutes here. None of us subbed off as well halfway through, but
things gone.
Yeah, a few cameo appearances here and there. Before we go, I want to say a thank you to all of our guests. That's Diogo Vante, Charlie Beasley, Peter Hampshire, Alex Jensen, Ben Griffiths, Scott Whitelock, Luke Evans, Mike Brandon, and Ryan Walters. Obviously, thank you as well to all our writers at K-League United this year. They've all done wonderful work. You can read it all on our website. I'm sure you have been doing throughout the year. I'm sure you've been interacting with all on Twitter, but thanks to all of them. And thanks of course, to you, the listeners or the viewers or whoever you are for following this podcast because, well, without you, there's no point continuing. So, but no, really appreciate it. And from myself, from Paul, from Andrew, Merry Christmas, season greetings to all who celebrate, and
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We'll see you in the new season. Bye-bye.
정조선 고용 복격기 김신우